Our liberties we prize, and our rights we will maintain. This is Iowa Civil Rights History Podcast, where we tell stories about the contribution Iowans and the state of Iowa has made to advance the civil rights movement. Past stories are being told, present actions will be highlighted, and preparation for the future will be discussed. Here is your host, Eric Nyange.
Welcome to the Iowa Civil Rights History Podcast. I have two special guests on the show today, Mary Brown and Terry Hansen. Mary is the tattoo artist and the owner of the Studio 65, a tattoo shop in Clear Lake, Iowa. Terry, he's the reformed member of the white supremacy gang. So why do I have a tattoo artist and the former member of the white supremacy gang on the show today? Is the story you're about to find out. Mary Brown and Terry Hansen, welcome guys to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for taking your time and being here. Mary, you got a phone call, text message. You got a guy here wants to get his tattoo worked on.
Yes.
Did he call you or somebody else called you?
So I had actually another client of mine who worked with Terry who got a hold of me and said, hey, I have this guy that I'm sending your way. You know, he has some tattoos that he got in prison, and it would mean a lot for him to get them covered up. You know, I wanted to work really hard for him to get in as soon as we could and make arrangements to get him in and get that stuff covered. And it's been a process over, how long now? A couple of years at least. Few years.
Three and a half years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Did you know what kind of tattoos before he showed up?
I was warned that they're pretty shocking ones, you know, and I believe if I remember right, didn't you tell me, like, I think even some other people didn't want to touch them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you had some other tattoo artists did not want to?
Yep. Yeah.
Which I don't think is fair.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, and granted, the one was like, the one in particular, I mean, they were not easy cover-ups by any means. That could be part of the reason, but I mean, just for the sake of, you know, his well-being, he's put in all this work to change his life. And he definitely deserved to, you know, have someone who was willing to work with him and get that stuff covered up. So
you got warned, but you did not know what is coming up.
I can't remember if I was told exactly what it was, but when I did see it, it was definitely shocking, and I knew, like, we have to help this guy get this covered. You know, it was crazy. So
Terry's showing up there and taking his shirt off. Do you have other clients at the studio at that time?
I believe that's when we were in my previous location.
First time I showed up was at your previous location, but I was late on purpose.
Mm-hmm, you told me that story.
Yeah.
Did you try to be late so she could cancel the appointment?
Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah, because when me and him sat down and had a coffee, he told me that he tried to be late.
Oh.
So showing up there and Mary be like, well, my next client is here. I can't do it.
Oh.
Didn't happen. So then Terry showed up there and take his shirt off. He got this big SWAT sticker tattoo on his chest. What's going on in your mind?
My first thought is just kind of playing in as an artist, you know, is how am I going to cover this?
Yeah.
I'm instantly going through in my head ways that I can cover it, but then you're also realizing what it is. And to me, I'm kind of like, man, I bet this guy has a story, and like how awesome that he wants to get this covered.
Yeah.
Like, I have to help him cover this at all costs, you know?
Yeah.
So
How many tattoos did you have to cover for him?
Okay, my legs, my chest, my side, and my back. So there was 4 that I had to have covered. I had white pride on my back that we covered up. I had, which was my patch, which was a skull with a Nazi hat on it. Then I had peckerwood on my legs.
Yeah.
That was covered up. Then I had a giant Swazi on my chest that we tackled first.
You went all the way in, Terry.
Yes.
And Mary, you own the Studio 65 in Clear Lake.
Yep.
You opened up 2016?
yes.
How many people you got in there?
Right
working
now
for
we
you?
have 7 artists and 2 receptionists. So
Okay. How long you been a tattoo artist?
I've been off. I started my apprenticeship back when I was 21.
Okay.
But I never finished, and I ended up meeting who's now my ex-husband and kind of moving around the country. He was military, so. But then when we ended up in Colorado, I started tattooing out there again, and it just kind of always, there was breaks in between.
Yeah.
So then when I ended up moving back to Iowa, that's when I finally dove in after a while.
Okay.
Dove back into it, and I was at another shop for about a year and a month, and then I ended up going out on my own, and I've been tattooing on my own since 2016. No breaks since then, so.
Oh, wow. I think I seen your shop before, but I don't think I ever been in there.
Right.
I'm chicken. I don't have
really?
I don't have a single tattoo. The idea of needles on my body is just like drive me into shock.
Oh, it's funny because when I go to the doctor, the thought of getting an IV started or anything like that
Really?
sends me into a panic attack every time, yes. But like I explained, they'll laugh at me, but I'm like, but it's going through. Like I'm just like running, some very tiny hairline needles across people's skin. And an IV is going into my veins, and it just freaks me out so bad.
Maybe that's something I might need to think about before I die. Maybe on my bucket list to have a tattoo on me. You born and raised in Iowa?
I was, yes.
Okay. Now you have a story of your own before we get to Terry.
Oh boy.
So you were once homeless?
I was. Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that. How did that all come about?
Oh man. Well, I kind of had a rough upbringing to start out with. I was in the foster system for a little bit, but finally, and actually my sister that I tattoo with, we were both in foster care, and then our aunt and uncle stepped in and adopted us. Kind of a rough upbringing, lots of, my mom had clinical depression and stuff, and she'd get depressed, and then we'd have to go live elsewhere for a little while with older siblings to take care of us because she'd usually attempt suicide and be in the hospital for a while. So then, fast forward, I'm 17 and I'm pregnant, and I decided to place the baby for an open adoption and found like a really good family and everything. The day that I went to leave the hospital, me and my mom went out for dinner, and like it was crazy because we were finally bonding, through my pregnancy. She was really there for me.
Yeah.
And we went out to eat after I left the hospital, and it was, so strange leaving without the baby, and I was just really praying that everything worked out, and it all happened for a reason. The family would hold true to their word with an open adoption, and which they have, by the way. They're amazing. But that same day we went out to eat after that, and we went out shopping to get stuff to make a scrapbook, and I went into the bathroom. I came out, my mom was collapsed on the floor. She died of right there in front of me.
Wow.
Passed away, and so then, my dad didn't take it well, and I still had two younger sisters in high school, middle school, and it was just kind of a crazy ride, and I didn't really have too much there for me, so I turned to kind of not the greatest relationships. And he was heavily involved in drugs and stealing and in and out of jail all the time. And he ended up emptying my bank account. And
that's the father of...
No, this was after the fact. This was an on-again, off-again high school boyfriend. So I got back together with him after all of that and was really trying to stick it out with him and, push him to be a better person. But that just ended me getting my bank account emptied, and of course, by then, just not making the best choices in my life. So I was already pregnant again and ended up having the baby and had nowhere to go. And so my daughter was the first baby that ever stayed in when the homeless shelter here in town, women's shelter was here. She was the first baby to ever stay there. So,
wow.
So it was just kind of a long haul, lots of ups and downs, lots of, not really knowing who I am or how to navigate grief and struggles, and just needing something to click, needing to go through some really hard stuff before things clicked. And I decided I have to do better for my daughter and, get my life together. So, and then it was kind of no turning back once I got on a roll. My thing is, I'm thankful for all this stuff I've been through because, man, there's just about any client that comes in,
they have
they have their story.
Yeah.
And then it's probably nice for them in some instances when, I can relate. I can relate with bad relationships, with adoption, with the death of unexpected death and loss and grief and mental illness and all that stuff. So,
Was that easy for you to connect with Terry, with what he was going through at that time?
Absolutely.
When he was trying to change his life?
Yes, and I was just so happy for him, you know, that he was trying to make that change. And it was really such a special thing for me to be able to be involved in that.
Because he told me from the beginning when me and him met, you are really, really biggest part of his life for him.
Aww.
To become this type of man he is today.
So sweet.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's why he asked me right when I talked to him about sit down and have a conversation. It's like, can I have Mary there with me?
Aw.
First I was like, is Mary your lawyer?
Is Mary your lawyer?
Yeah, but then he told me the story and I was like, absolutely. Yeah. Terry, when did you get the first tattoo and why?
My first one was the Swazi, and that's because I wanted everybody to recognize me. You know, like we've discussed before, where it was so big, when I was on the yard, on the compound, they could be on one side or the other.
You can see it.
They knew where I stood, who I was.
That's the biggest swastika tattoo I ever seen.
It was huge.
Yeah.
I don't know if your listeners really want to hear it, but...
Oh, they do.
I had the chance of it being red, which would have put me on a hit squad. But it didn't go the way that it was supposed to go.
What does the red mean?
The red means that it was like I'd kill her, because there was actually a guy that we had the green light from the COs. And it was a black man, but he was also a pedophile, and he was doing movies where he was showing little kids being raped and stuff. Oh. So everybody got into the agreement that we would be the ones that handled it. Well, he didn't die like he was supposed to. They had the CERT team come in to stop us. But today when I look at it, okay, what steps would we have taken before that? Would we have done more investigating if it was a white guy than if it was a black guy?
I was about to ask you that question. Were you guys more pushed to do what you did because he was black?
Yeah.
First, more so than he was a pedophile?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So where did you get this? Because these tattoos, like you say you had a swastika tattoo, and you say you had white pride on the back.
Yep.
And then you had Parkerwood gangs on your legs.
Yep.
Now, these are all white supremacy tattoos.
Yes.
Did you get them in prison or did you get them out here?
I got them while I was in prison.
Okay.
There were all prison tattoos in there. Yeah, it was different stages that I went through when I got them. I had to do different things, put work in to earn each one of my tattoos.
Oh, really?
Whether it was smashing somebody or what have you, that's what I had to do to earn them. I couldn't just get them.
Oh, you couldn't just get them?
No. When you get ink in there, you have to earn them. Because if you go anyplace else, if you don't have the right story to tell them, and then they check on it, you're hit, as we've discussed before.
Wow.
So.
Wow. And out here, we got to pay Mary to get tattooed.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't need to earn nothing other than make sure you got money to pay for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she might send somebody like me after.
How long were you been in the gang?
I've always been part of a racist
gang.
Yes, in some way, shape, or form.
All your life?
Yes.
Yeah.
I started at an early age where my family was racist. When I was locked up, it was very comfortable because actually the prison system promotes this.
Yeah.
Because they segregate us.
Yep.
We have our own TV areas. When we go to chow hall, you have your own areas to eat in. They don't put whites and blacks in the federal system together. If they put you in with a Mexican, it's because everybody has to be okay with it at the time.
Do you think that added to the racism?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Because you're so around your own?
Yes, because that's all you mess with. You don't. One of the biggest rules in there is that you don't smoke, eat, or drink after another race when you're white. If you get caught walking, especially in the Fed system, and you get caught and you're walking and talking to another race, if you don't have the right answers when certain people see it, you're getting smashed. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're not staying on that yard and wherever you go, that follows you.
That can work in a prison system.
Yes.
When you come home,
Yes.
how do you deal with that then? Do you constantly try to isolate yourself? Because I think it's getting harder and harder nowadays.
I did. I isolated myself a lot where when I first came home, my wife used to get mad because if we went to Walmart,
Yeah.
I used to make comments all the time, especially if I seen a black man with a white girl or anything like that. You know, it to me instantly that clicked in my head. That's
wrong. That's wrong.
You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and it was vice versa. If I seen a white man with a black girl, it was vice versa.
Yeah.
You know, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I have to fight to get certain thoughts out of my mind because it still comes to my head. But this is all a process for the rest of my life that I have to go through.
Oh yeah, because you grew up like that.
Yes.
All your life, so it's not until the last 10 years of your life wheels that start turning. So
yeah, it was like 2-3 years after I got out, I started seeing a therapist out at Prairie Ridge, and she helped me out so much with my thought patterns on the way it was that I started hearing her voice in my head when I get these thoughts like, Terry, do you really need this? Because there was times that I didn't care where I was. I just wanted to go up and just punch them. I wanted to do anything. It didn't matter what it was, you know, and it might not even be something that had to deal with me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Let's go back to that for a second. The separation and segregation, I ask you that in prison it's easy. You can do that. You can manage and maintain that.
Yes.
How did you live your life when you're out here? Because like you say, you go to Walmart, you can't segregate people. Because I feel like if you want to live that life, you're going to limit yourself a lot. There's a lot of places you're not going to go. How did you handle that life outside?
Well, out here, it was a lot different for me because let's say if I seen a black man or a Mexican or somebody in an aisle, right, I would bump them on purpose.
Oh, really?
Just to be disrespectful. I would be disrespectful out here because that was how I had to deal with it out here.
So the idea of you going back to prison, it didn't matter?
No, I've always had, ever since I was probably about 24, I've always had it in my head that I was willing to accept all consequences for my actions. It didn't matter what it was.
Yeah.
And I was more comfortable living in prison than I was out here. Yes.
Was it more because you were able to be segregated in prison and be around your own?
Yes, and I knew where I stood when I was in prison. Out here,
you did not know?
I didn't know where I stood at all. You know, so it's the way that things are with people.
Yeah.
And I still find that today that I don't know where I stand. Sometimes I feel alone.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so, but.
Because this is a new world for you.
It is. But I enjoy it, though.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Even you sit across from me, this is a completely new world.
Right. And when we got our picture taken, I have never done that my entire life. Ever. So.
Hey, that's first time for everything.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
You were born and raised in Clear Lake, Iowa?
No, I'm actually from Harlan, Iowa.
Okay.
But we moved around my entire life. We lived down in Oklahoma. We lived in Mississippi. We lived in Iowa. We lived in Nebraska. So, yeah.
Okay. Every time I hear the story about somebody who's racist or have a lot of racist views, it's always, when you trace back, it's always start in the family. It's always start there. And you mentioned that already, that you grew up that way. So was the all idea in your family that if it ain't white, it ain't right?
Pretty much it was, but not with all my family. You know, I think a lot of my family didn't realize what they were doing at the time because during them times, it seemed like a norm. Whether you were in school or wherever, you stayed with your own kind, you know. So that's one of the reasons why when you're in prison, it's so easy to stay with your own kind too.
Yeah. Another thing is most of the time when we are taught things with our parents, they don't put the logic behind it.
Right.
They don't explain why.
Right.
was there that explanation for you, or was one of those things, this is how we live, this is the way it is, and deal with it?
I never really asked them that.
Yeah.
It was just that since I grew up I was born in 64, and I grew up in the late 60s and in the 70s, it was a norm. And it's so easy to go with the norm. And that was the only thing. And we lived in towns that were nothing but predominantly white. That's all there was white people in these towns. Whether it was in Harlan at the time, Denison, or Charter Oak, everybody in school was white. Everybody was. We didn't have no Latinos in there. We didn't have no Native Americans in our classes.
So the things you're told at home about other race, you take that at the face value.
Exactly.
Because that's what it is until
you learn on your own.
Yeah, and then you go to prison, you get segregated, and the people that you're hanging out with in the prison, they repeat the same thing you heard growing up.
And it's like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the 4 words, but there's a book out called The 4 Words, and one of them is to be impeccable with your word, because words cast spells on people. If you keep saying something over and over, people believe it.
Oh, yeah.
So when I was in there, they used to tell me all kinds of stuff like, look, all that black guy, that they would call them toads in there, right? They'd say all they want is white women, and since they can't have a white woman, they want a white boy. And that's how I seen things in there. You know, they always want to just try and beat us out of stuff, or they would tell on white people or this and that.
Yeah.
And so everything that they told me, that's what I seen. That's what I seen. You know, and it didn't matter if that's what they meant it to be.
Yeah.
But that's what I seen it as.
There's so many reasons, and I'm all over the place in this conversation. There's so many reasons young people will want to join the gang or want to join the racist gang. What was your reason? Why did you want to get in the gang?
When I decided to get into a gang, it was because I had to make up my mind whether I wanted to be a victim or if I wanted to be one of the predators. And I definitely wasn't going to be a victim.
Yeah.
So I took the other path. I got into where I fit in, people that were like-minded with me.
Comfortable?
Exactly. Yes, people that I felt like they were family for me. I never really grew up with a family, you know, and this was like my family for me. I didn't see that they weren't until after I got out. But, yeah, they were all like, we're brothers in there.
Sense of belonging?
Yes. You did things with each other all the time, whether it was if you took a shower when you were at a USP. You had 1 or 2 other guys that stood at the shower while you went and took a shower. So that you guys got so close in there.
Yeah.
So close. You know, but you don't realize that the only reason you're so close is because they want something from you, and that can keep going on and on and on.
How do I know my kid is being recruited in a gang? How did it happen to you? Did the gang approach you, or you picked the gang, you want to be part of it, and you approached them?
I just started hanging out with them, is what I did. I just started hanging out with them. Well, I wasn't part of a gang out here on the streets until after I came out of the Fed system.
Oh.
So it was when I was in the Fed system is when I joined up with them.
Yeah.
You know, however, I still only kept with my own kind. When I was out here throughout my teenage years, when I was in my 20s and I'd get out on parole or go to the bar, I only hung out with white people. You know, that was it. But for kids these days, it's getting harder and harder to tell, really, because one of the things that they look for, let's say there's a lot of problems going on at home, whether a father and mother are getting a divorce. So that's one of the things that they prey on. Oh. That way they start making you feel like you're a part of something, is what they do.
So they basically prey on the victim and to make them a predators.
Exactly. Yes. For kids these days, you can start telling by the way that they talk, or even by TV shows that they watch. Yes, because they'll say like rap. They say they won't watch rap because this is black people that do rap anymore, even though that's not so much true. So you start listening to what your kid has to say.
Yeah.
Whether it's on the news and they see something, like we were talking about with the police.
Yeah.
If they see where a black man got killed.
Yeah.
Right? And one of the first things that comes to mind is, well, he deserved it.
Yeah.
He was a criminal. He's done this and that. So these are
Pay attention to those little things.
Yes. You start paying attention to the people that they hang out with. Even if he's involved with sports and he's playing on a sports team and there's other people in there, they only congregate with white people. That's it.
It's funny you say that. I had a friend of mine one time, I think his son was going to Messon City High. A friend of mine is black, his son is black. He asked him, it's like, man, Messon City High is like 80% white. Why all your friends are black? Mm-hmm. And I asked him, why did you ask him that? He said, I want to make sure he's not picking his friends based on color. Mm-hmm. You have siblings?
Yes. I got 2 brothers and I got a sister.
And you guys were raised in the same household?
Yes. Well, no, my youngest brother, he is just my half-brother.
Yeah.
When my mom and dad got a divorce, my dad got remarried and then had him. And my sister is my half-sister. Yeah. But my mom got remarried, and that's when she had her.
Okay. So. What was their views on race? I'm assuming was the same as you growing up, or were they a little bit different?
My brother, my full brother, his views are still the same. Okay. Like what mine were. Me and my sister don't really talk much anymore. We do once in a while, but there's a lot of animosities that are there.
Is it tough for you to have a conversation with your brother these days?
We've actually started hanging out and stuff again, but I try to show him that I'm not the person that he thought I was at one time. Yeah. Because the way when he talks about stuff, I change the conversation quick. I don't want to go down that path, because it's so easy to get pulled back.
Yep. You talked about your sister. How close were you guys growing up?
Not very, because my mom gave me up when I was 14, so I had to start going to foster homes and stuff. And so my sister was like 6 or 7 at that time. Yeah. So we never really got to know each other that much.
How long were you in the foster system?
I was in there for like a year and a half, and then I started going to Eldora when I was 16. Okay. I don't talk about that too much because it's still a sore spot. My family wants to push blame onto me for it. So, and my mom always told me that it was my fault that we all got taken from her. She said we were taken, but she gave us up. Is what she did.
Yeah, so that can be a little bit tough conversation to have.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, you spent almost all your life in the prison system.
Yes, if you count the boys' training school, I've been in and out of prison ever since I was 16 years old. So I'm now 57 years old, and I got out in 2012, and I've been out ever since then.
So you got out in 2012.
Yeah.
10 years now. Is this the longest you've been out, like free?
Yes. Usually it would only be for 2-3 months, and then I'd catch a new number to go back.
Since age of 16?
Yep. I was 17 years old when I first walked through the gates of Anamosa. I was 17 years old. It was right about 2 months before my 18th birthday.
Wow. Did you feel like that was normal at that time?
For me, it was. It didn't even faze me none that I went in.
So every time you went back in, it was more comfortable than being out here.
Yeah, actually, it was almost like a party when we went back. Everybody giving each other hugs and everything. Yeah. Yep. So it didn't even bother me when people said, "Well, we knew you'd be back." I said, "Yeah, I knew I would be back too."
Yeah, I wanted to be back.
Yeah.
So, oh man.
Yep.
It's crazy. It sounds very much like my daughter's dad. I actually met him my sophomore year. Me and my mom got in a bad fight, and she sent me to Francis Lauer. Mm-hmm. And we played basketball together, and we're passing each other notes and stuff. So that's how I actually met her dad, is in juvie. Yeah. Of course. So, and we were just on again, off again over the years. And then, it was just really sad because he did the foster care system too. He was in and out, and it just kind of sets them up for, like, from what I'm hearing from Terry, like, that's their comfort. He's gone again now. I don't think he's ever been out longer than I think 6 months has been his max, and then he'll, go back in. And it's been such a struggle with my daughter to, still try to facilitate a co-parenting relationship with someone, because I know he has the ability to be such a loving person, but his life set him up to just, that's all he knows.
Yeah.
To see how it affects my daughter and her, the way she connects with boys now because of it, because she's just wanting to cling to people and be enough for them to stay.
Yeah. How old is she?
She's 15.
15. How do we fix that?
One thing I learned with myself, one of the biggest lessons, is you are the company you keep. So if you're around people making you have a negative outlook on other human beings, you need to get away from those people. If you hear them talking badly about races or just other people in general, do not surround yourself with people who can't have compassion and love for other people. Yeah. And do not surround yourself with people who don't want to work hard and achieve goals, because that was the biggest thing for me. When I started changing the people I surrounded myself with, it made it so much easier to clearly see goals and understand how to achieve them and get out of this mudslide that I was in of just, and especially me, I have a personality where I'm always trying to help people. But people have to help themselves too. And so. Yeah,
but then I'm thinking from a Terry perspective.
But you can believe in them.
It's how do you get out of that? Because if you were raised like that, and then you have other people that constantly confirm how you were raised, and if that's all you know, definitely you're going to get more drawn to people that think like that.
Absolutely.
How do you all of a sudden get out of that environment? And now we're living in a society, you say one wrong thing, we cancel you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't care if you change.
Right. And that's definitely something I've thought about, because I've definitely come across the right people at the right time.
Yeah.
And that's also what it takes.
Yep, that matters a lot.
It takes a lot of, but I mean, you're never going to come across those right people at the right time if you're just stuck around hateful people, people with no ambition, people, not making good choices for their lives.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself out there where you can surround yourself with inspiring people.
Yeah.
Or you're never going to be inspired to do anything what you're doing already. But it's a lot of chance and fate. And I feel like if you genuinely have a good heart and you really, regardless of what your beliefs are, if you pray about it or manifest it, or, you can make really good things happen for your life. You just have to really believe it with everything you have. I'm better than this. I'm better than these thoughts. And you just have to wholeheartedly put your whole soul into believing that. And then I feel like your life will then get blessed
Much
with
better.
the people that you need in your life to help you make the changes that you need to.
Closed mouth don't get fed.
Yeah.
I learned if you ask people for help, you will get it.
Absolutely.
Most of the time, you will get help.
Absolutely.
Terry, I want to get back to you. Your whole life, you're growing up, you're being taught hate. At what time did you come to that Jesus moment and you start thinking maybe the things I've been taught, it's wrong or it's not right? How did that happen? Walk me through it.
Because of a therapist that I had. I wasn't real sure about seeing therapists, but in feds, when you're on paper, you have to go through some type of outpatient counseling.
Okay.
My first therapist told me that he didn't think I'd make it out here 30 days. So that right there made me not really have too much confidence in him. But then I started seeing another one out at Prairie Ridge, and she made me believe that actually some people believed in me,
Yeah.
Because I remember when I finally decided I wanted to give up doing drugs. I'd received a text from my youngest son telling me, "Dad, I hate your guts." Excuse me. "I don't ever want to see you again." So I got a hold of her And she got me into Prairie Ridge the next day. And I think that was really the moment when I knew that there was actually good people that cared and they didn't even know me, you know?
Yeah.
So that was the moment right there. She went out of her way to get me in treatment the very next day.
Wow.
So, and I think if that wouldn't have happened, my life would never have changed.
Who is the therapist so we can give her the shout out?
Emily.
Emily. Okay.
Yes.
Shout out to Emily, man. Oh, wow.
She's the one who sent him my way.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, great. Now that's the first step. You start realizing like, oh, were you able to separate then? Like, okay, this is the truth about how when the people care about you, this is what they do versus your gang members.
It took me a moment because at first I still always wondered what are people getting out of helping me a little bit. Because so many people in today's society is out for themselves to help themselves. And if they're helping you, it's because they're going to get something out of it. Yes. If it wasn't for her and Mary.
Yeah.
Because Mary never got nothing out of helping me. So.
Oh, but I did though.
Yeah.
In a good way. And not a way that I needed anything from you, but it's been amazing helping.
And they showed me that they were good people. You know, they made me remember when I'd sit in jail, my grandfather used to come and see me. And he was the only one in my family to come see me while I was sitting in jail.
Wow.
And I asked him, I said, Grandpa, why do you come see me? Why do you take care of me when I'm in jail? Because he always told me, he says, because I know you're better than this.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I do now today is every time I get a chip for another year of sobriety, I take it down to his headstone and I super glue it to his headstone. And I tell him I did it. I'm doing it. So.
How old was your grandpa when he passed?
He was 69, I believe.
That's young.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. So now things slowly start turning. And you start realizing like, okay, there's people out here who really care. And they really want to see me win. They want to see me doing good. They want to see me turning my life. But you also have this 50-some-year-old mentality.
Yes.
That has been ingrained in you from birth. How do you unpack that?
What really helped me for that is that I started working at Prairie Ridge.
Or you start helping other people?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and it showed me that everybody, we all have the same problems. You know, whether they're good, they're bad, or whatever. I was a peer facilitator first there, and I got to sit down and talk to everybody. At first, I used to not segregate to other races and talk to them, but then it started dawning on me, they're in here for the same thing I came here through.
Yeah.
You know, and then I actually got to become a recovery coach there, where I started being able to see people and talk to people even more and to get them to stay.
Yeah.
And I'd hear their stories, and their stories weren't no different than mine. You know, they might have had different things that happened, but all of our stories are the same. The only thing that separates us from being each other is, and you can't even really say it should, but it's skin color. And actually that doesn't separate nobody because we're still all the same. We all think alike. You know, we all learn the same things, whether it's in school or on the streets. We're all the same, you know.
So now you start seeing people a little bit different than how you were taught.
Yes.
The hardest thing sometimes can be to separate yourself from what you've been taught all your life.
Yes.
How do you overcome that?
It's really hard. I have to get out of my own head. I have to follow through with what I want to do to overcome it. If I step away from helping somebody that needs help, then
that's on you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But I could be so easily and blame them for it. It's not them, it's me. If I want to be the person that I want to be, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's what I remind myself. And I also tell myself that there's so many people now that would be disappointed. And I don't want to disappoint nobody.
Yeah.
You know?
Mary, do you understand what you've done here? Because he came to the appointment late to get those crazy racist tattoo covered up. You did not judge him. You help him through the hurdle. Do you understand that if you did judge him, or if you refuse to do the tattoo, he will probably take a different path? Is that ever synced in? Well, stay tuned for part 2 of my conversation with Mary and Terry. Thanks for listening to the Iowa Civil Rights History Podcast. Until next time, be safe.